Tuesday 26th. Moderate breezes easterly and hazy weather. Standing to the southward close upon a wind. At noon was in the latitude of 35 degrees 10 minutes south and longitude 188 degrees 20 minutes west. The island of the Three Kings, north 26 degrees west, distant 22 leagues. In this situation had no land in sight, and yet by observation we are in the latitude of the Bay of Islands, and by my reckoning but 30 leagues to the westward of the North Cape, from whence it appears that the northernmost part of this land must be very narrow, otherwise we must have seen some part of the west side of it. Wednesday 27th. Winds at east. PM a fresh gale, with which we stood to the southward until 12 at night, then tacked and stood to the northward. At 4 a.m. the wind began to freshen, and increased in such a manner that at 9 we were obliged to bring the ship to under her mainsail, it blowing at this time excessive hard, with heavy squalls attended with rain, and at the same time thick hazy weather. Course made good since yesterday at noon. South-southwest half-west, distance 11 miles. Latitude in 35 degrees 19 minutes south, longitude in 188 degrees 29 minutes west. The island of the Three Kings, north 27 degrees east, distant 77 miles. Thursday 28th. The gale continued without the least intermission until 2 a.m, when the wind fell a little and began to veer to the southward and to the southwest, where it fixed at 4, and we made sail and steered east in for the land under the foresail and mainsail, but was soon obliged to take in the latter, as it began to blow very hard, and increased in such a manner that by 8 o'clock it was a mere hurricane, attended with rain, and the sea run prodigious high. At this time we wore the ship, hauled up the topsail, and brought her to with her head to the northwest under a reefed mainsail. But this was scarcely done before the main tack gave way, and we were glad to take in the mainsail, and lay to under the mizzen staysail and balanced mizzen, after which we reefed the foresail and furled both it and the mainsail. At noon the gale was a little abated, but had still heavy squalls attended with rain. Our course made good today is north a little easterly 29 miles. Latitude in per account 34 degrees 50 minutes south. Longitude 188 degrees 27 minutes west. The Three Kings, north 41 east, distant 52 miles. Friday 29th. Winds at southwest and southwest by west. A very hard gale with squalls, but mostly fair weather. At 7 p.m. wore and lay on the other tack. At 6 a.m. loosed the reef out of the foresail and set it and the reefed mainsail. At 11 unbent both foresail and mainsail to repair, and bent others and made sail under them. At noon latitude observed 34 degrees 45 minutes south. Course and distance sailed since yesterday, east by north 29 miles. Saturday 30th. Winds at southwest. PM hard gales with some squalls, attended with rain. AM more moderate and fair. At 8 p.m. wore and stood to the northwest until 5 a.m. Then wore and stood to the southeast, and being pretty moderate we set the topsails close reefed. But the southwest sea runs so prodigious that the ship goes bodily to leeward. At 6 saw the land bearing northeast, distant about 6 leagues, which we judged to be the same as Tasman called Cape Maria van Dieman. At noon it bore north-northeast half east. and we could see the land extend to the east and southward, as far as southeast by east. Our latitude by observation, 34 degrees 50 minutes south. Sunday, 31st. Fresh gales at southwest and southwest by south, accompanied by a large sea from the same quarter. At 1 p.m, tacked and stood to the northwest until 8, then stood to the southeast. At this time, the island of the Three Kings bore northwest by west, distant 11 leagues, and Cape Maria van Dieman north by east. At midnight, wore and stood to the northwest until 4 a.m, then wore and stood to the southeast. At noon, our latitude by observation was 34 degrees 42 minutes south. The land of Cape Maria van Dieman bore northeast by north, distant about 5 leagues. Monday, January 1st, 1770. PM, fresh breezes at southwest by south and squally. The remainder, moderate breezes at southwest by south and southwest, clear weather. At 7 p.m, tacked and stood to the westward. At this time, Mount Camel bore north 83 degrees east, and the northernmost land, or Cape Maria van Dieman, north by west, being distant from the nearest shore 3 leagues, in this situation had 40 fathoms water. Note: Mount Camel does not appear to lay little more than a mile from the sea on this side, and about the same distance on the other, so that the land here cannot be above 2 or 3 miles broad from sea to sea, which is what I computed when we were in Sandy Bay on the other side of the coast. At 6 a.m, tacked and stood to the eastward, the island of the Three Kings northwest by north. At noon, tacked again and stood to the westward, being in the latitude of 34 degrees 37 minutes south. The island of the Three Kings bore northwest by north, distant 10 or 11 leagues, and Cape Maria van Dieman north 31 east, distant 4.5 leagues. In this situation, had 54 fathoms. I cannot help thinking but what it will appear a little strange that at this season of the year we should be 3 weeks in getting 10 leagues to the westward, and 5 weeks in getting 50 leagues. For so long it is since we passed Cape Brett. But it will hardly be credited that in the midst of summer and in the latitude of 35 degrees south, such a gale of wind as we have had could have happened, which for its strength and continuance was such as I hardly was ever in before. Fortunately at this time we were a good distance from land, otherwise it would have proved fatal to us.